in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome back to part 2 of Chat with Profe. So, Profe, I was just talking to two very intelligent girls in the back, and they were saying, what is this thing about the no fire hoses?
Oh, we gotta explain that. So,
Yeah.
it's not obvious. What this is a metaphor. Okay, so basically, the reason that we don't wheel in a TV and just show you guys movies in Spanish was also reason for
Dude, that would be pretty easy if we could just watch movies all day.
Super easy. I would just relax back.
Then why aren't we doing that?
Because we hold it
Because we need to learn Spanish.
But, well, why don't we could also, like, you know, we could also just have Profe and I just have, like, conversations about the environment and politics and the economy, and you guys could just listen to that, and then you would just pick it up.
And we'd have a good time.
Yeah,
we'd
we'd have
be
a
able
good
to
time.
chat and get to know each other.
So why do we, you know, involve these gestures and all this artwork that you guys create? So it's the same. It's the reason why you don't talk politics with a baby. You got to go to their level. You kind of simplify it and make it so that they're interested in it, and it's not a flood of information, because then they're going to shut down. So it's like the metaphor is you don't want to get a drink from a fire hose.
Because it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. You stick your face, try to get a drink, and you go, and you just smash your head off.
You would die.
Huh?
It might actually kill you.
It might actually kill you, yeah. So it's the same thing. We don't want to we don't want to overwhelm you and just flood you with all this Spanish. We want to give you like a little bit, have it be interesting to you. That's why you involve your ideas, your artwork, stories that you guys create. And then we'll be at your level, but maybe just like a little bit more advanced. Not too advanced, not a whole fire hose, okay? A normal drinking fountain.
No fire hoses. Profe, I have a question. When I first learned, because I was taught the way you were taught, and the way a lot of our parents were taught, and the way a lot of teachers still teach. I mean, kids, like, it's not always going to be like this. Some teachers don't teach this way. Okay, so in your Spanish future, you might have a teacher who still thinks that worksheets and grammar is going to be really good for you. Okay? I know they're out there.
Yeah.
So, Profe, when I first learned about this, and maybe this is why people don't start teaching in a different way, I thought it's kind of too good to be true. I had to study. I had to memorize verb charts, and now I can speak French. Now, of course, it really didn't happen until I went to France, and then went to college, and I took conversation classes where we were actually doing what we're doing in here. We were actually using the language. So, what would you say if somebody said, that's too good to be true? It really is not supposed to be. You're in school. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be enjoyable. These kids need to work. People need to work to get something good. What would be the answer to that?
I would say that language is different, and just like when you were a little baby, you didn't have your parents saying, okay, get to work, you got to study for 2 hours tonight, and change your own diaper, right?
Yeah.
So, the only thing that, it might only feel like work, because this is a internal process that's happening in your brain. When you, and this is the key, you have to actively listen and engage the language. If you're zoning out, and just like Spanish is going on in the background, it doesn't do anything. Your brain will like take in the Spanish, and you don't have to study, but you have to listen actively. That's why sometimes you listen so hard that your brain hurts. Does that ever happen to you?
No.
No? Okay, well, you got to work on your listening skills. Because it's actually something, when you're listening actively, that is a type of work. But it's a natural process, and so you don't have to, it'll just happen, it'll occur naturally.
So,
Again?
it's just basically like human nature. Great. It's a very important point. Profe, we have a few more points that we want to make. And so, what would you say is the best thing that a person can do in a class like this? Like it says they have to do their half, right? So what is their half? What is a student's role? Because some people say like, well, it must be kind of boring being in a class like that because the teacher's just talking away. What's the student's role in a class like this? What should they do? What should it feel like when you're in a class where you're not taking tests, you're trying hard to pay attention, and you're not getting like too much language, but you are getting some language right at your level? What's the student's role?
The student's role is to, number one, listen with intent to understand. Because have you guys ever been, I don't know, on a public bus or in a store, out in public, and you hear people speaking a language you don't know, and you can just tune it out? You're just like, you're not like, oh, wait, what are they saying? Do I recognize any words? Oh, does that word sound like English?
It sounds like this.
Yeah. So if you guys, you could do that with Spanish. You could tune it out. But then you won't acquire anything. You won't acquire the language. But if you do try to understand and you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds like English, I recognize that, and you do listen with a lot of intent, right? Like intense listening. It's hard. It's actually kind of, it's a different kind of work. But intense listening. Intense listening with intent. Then intense listening with intent. Yeah. Then eventually you're gonna start producing the language, but we're not gonna force it on you, because think about it. Do you force it on a baby? Do you say, okay, at 1.5 years old, you're gonna get quizzed on the past tense, so prepare, right? You can't force it. You can't force when the baby is gonna start talking.
We're not babies.
But you learn the same way as a baby.
That's an interesting question. We were just talking about that at lunch, Profe. What would you say if people were to say, like, well, they're not actually babies, and they can read and they can write, and they should be using their reading and writing to read a book, like a textbook, or to read some rules, and they can go faster because they are smarter than a baby. What is the difference between a baby and a kid in 7th grade or 8th grade?
Right, so you guys do know how to read and write, and we use that as a tool. But the language faculty, the part of your brain that takes in language and has you acquire it, is the same. It doesn't matter if you're a baby or now. It's going to acquire it in stages. So, but it is an advantage that you guys can already read and write, and that you already know another language.
So does it mean that they'll get to this point quicker than a baby? I mean, think about a baby. Like, it takes probably 5-6 years they probably start talking about 2 or 3, but they're not all that great at it until maybe 4 or 5. And then they'll start writing. Some of us write before we go to kindergarten, some of us learn in kindergarten and 1st grade, so that's like age 5, 6, 7. Is it going to take these kids 5, 6, or 7 years to start writing and 2 or 3 years to start talking?
No. Maybe.
No. Well,
Maybe. If they tune it out. Well,
Oh!
good point. If they tune it out. Yeah, but you guys can use, we use English as a tool in this class, right? So like, that's why, here we have,
Le gusta.
see, that's how see, so with a baby, you can't just say, oh, you don't know what a bottle is? I mean, you would have to show them what it is, right? But you guys just quickly, oh, botella, bottle. That's what it is in English. So it's a tool.
Well, Profe, it looks like we have some questions, but
Yeah.
before we take questions, what about maybe one final point for our brochures that we're going to be making?
Right. One final point.
Our brochures, which will include 4 sentences.
Really? Okay.
In English.
In English.
Easy brochures. So what's our last point that maybe we want to make if we want to go out and tell people about language learning and how we're doing it in this class and why we feel so strongly about it.
Right. So we want you guys to spread this good news.
Yeah, I'll write that down.
Okay? And I want you to explain to people that learning a language is not the same as other subjects. Okay? So, for example, if someone says, well, why aren't you
That's a good point. I think I'm going to add just one more point.
Okay.
It's a different type of class.
Yeah. It's a special type of class.
class.
So,
Oh, Profe, in the last period we were talking a little bit about like when, okay, like imagine that you're in a class on running.
yeah.
I would say PE is a lot kind of like this class.
That's
Because
probably the...
you're learning something that's kind of natural.
Right.
So,
when you
Profe,
guys...
you had said something about running, like, and walking, like when you're a little kid and your parents, like, and when you learn how to walk. Can you tell them a little bit about that? I thought it was a great analogy.
Yeah, so if someone, let's say your parent says, well, why aren't you like filling out packets? Like, why don't you bring home like a homework packet and fill it out like with the grammar rules of Spanish? Like, you bring home packets in your other classes of homework you need to do. And so what you could say is, when you guys, it's not like history. It's not like science. It's more like when you learn to walk, right? Did you guys like fill out these worksheets on like, oh, this bone attaches to this ligament, and then you studied really hard, and you're like, oh, okay, I know how the muscles operate, and then
But then when you actually try it.
you have to actually try it, right?
But
You
then
just
when you
have to
actually
try it.
you don't think about walking.
Yeah, you don't, exactly. You don't,
Say that once again,
say that once
person
again.
in our studio audience.
So you don't think about walking, like when you actually do it, because it's like this same with learning a language. You don't think about what you're gonna say next.
exactly.
Wait, it's like skateboarding. Not really.
That's exactly it, right? So like when you guys so when you learn to walk, it just came naturally to you. It's just like part of the human experience. It's just something that we all do, right? And so like if I ask you, you have to answer back in a complete sentence. So did you ride your bike yesterday?
No.
No, I did not.
Okay, say the whole thing.
Yes, I did ride my bike yesterday.
Okay, so did you think about like what you just said there right now before you spoke? Did you think of, okay, she's talking about the past tense. Okay, so I need to put did in front because it's negated. No, you didn't, right? So it's the same thing with Spanish. Why would you do that? You want to just internalize the language so that eventually it'll just flow right out of you. And you're not going to think, okay, past tense, first person, singular. No, you're just going to say it, right?
Profe, excellent job. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're my favorite.
Yes.
My dad said that when he learned a language, he knows that you're starting to learn it well when you start having a dream in Spanish. So,
Yeah.
when was the first? Have you had a dream in Spanish before? And when was like not like it's like if you're like thinking kind of like in Spanish. I don't know.
Well, that's a good point, right? Because the whole thing that we're stressing about it being subconscious, right? So you're not thinking like, okay, what verb tense? No, it just comes to you naturally. So that's probably, if you're dreaming in it,
Yeah.
then I think it's just deep in the back of your brain, right?
Yeah.
So that would be, that's a good point. I think I started dreaming, see, that's a good point too, because it was not while I was in high school studying it. I think I had my first dream in Spanish when I was in Spain, and I had actually acquired it, right?
I've had dreams in Spanish.
Oh, whoa.